Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Mazza on Mets. I'm your host, Evan Mazza, here where we talk all things New York Mets baseball. And we got a lot to get into today on the show. There's a lot of internal moves the Mets have made over the past few days as they're still in the stretch and still in the middle of their worst stretch of the season, their worst stretch in 2+ years, as they have now lost, as they have now lost 8 of their last 9 games. They have just dropped 2 out of 3 to the Philadelphia Phillies, completing a 1-5 National League Eastern Division road trip. They got swept by Atlanta over the week, and over the weekend they got swept. Over the week they got swept by the Braves, and then from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday they lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. They now come back home to Citi Field to start a 4-game series with the Atlanta Braves starting tonight. They come back home 1 game behind the Philadelphia Phillies in the National League Eastern Division race. But again, it's the things that continue for this team over this stretch of 8 of the last 9. They're not hitting, no timely hitting. The situational hitting isn't good. They continue to not score runs in scoring position. The pitching isn't good right now. Starting pitching is really struggling right now. The bullpen continues to be shaky, at least in terms of the middle innings. The defense continues to be a bit spotty, especially in the infield. There's just a lot of things there's just a lot of things that they need to touch up on right now, need to improve on in order to get back on track and get back into the thick of things and start winning baseball games again, just like they were doing 2 weeks ago. You know, but if we start over the weekend, we start Friday, Saturday, Sunday, their series against the Philadelphia Phillies. On Friday, Blade Tidwell took them out for the Mets. Blade Tidwell had to come in as a spot starter. The injuries to Tyler McGill, Kodai Senga, Manaea Montes, Sean Manaea, Frankie Montes still coming back. This obviously wasn't supposed to be Blade Tidwell. This was supposed to be Justin Hagman, but Hagman pitched out of the bullpen in the game before against the Atlanta Braves, so it ended up being Blade Tidwell. And I actually think this ended up, in a way, I think this ended up being an advantage for the Mets because I think if you're the Mets, I think you'd rather see Blade Tidwell pitch than Justin Hagman, just to see what Tidwell can do. He's a more of a highly touted prospect to see what he can do. And hey, in his first start, okay, he struggled a bit in St. Louis, but you if there was a positive to come out of Friday, they lost the game 10-2. We'll get to the how the game went overall, but yeah, I think you are encouraged by how Blade Tidwell performed. 4 strikeouts. He only went 3 and 2/3. It's not like he went 5 or 6, but he went 3 and 2/3. But he struck out 4 guys. He battled. I think he was more competitive certainly than his last start against the Cardinals. Um, 4 strikeouts. You loved his fastball, 97, 98. You liked his curveball and sliders and stuff. So I do think you come out of this game on Friday encouraged a little bit with the way Blade Two will perform, just in case if he has to start again, because he might have to. Who knows how Frankie Montez looks? Who knows when Senga will be back? Who knows if McGill? Who knows with McGill? So you might need to again pretty soon. So you know, I think you come out of this outing with the Mets looking a bit this outing with Tidwell looking encouraged. I know his ERA wasn't pretty in AAA, and obviously his first start in St. Louis didn't go so well. You know, so but you liked what you saw in Tidwell. You liked what you saw in Tidwell. I think you like what you saw. But I think that's out. But that's obviously the one positive you can take out of it. Blade Tidwell's performance on Friday. Other than that, they lost the game 10-2. Zach Wheeler pitched for the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Mets had their opportunity. When it comes to a pitcher like Zach Wheeler, an ace, guy strikes out a lot of guys. You got to get to him early. You got to take advantage when he's not at his best and still trying to find his stuff early, because that's sometimes what you see out of the aces, some of the best pitchers in the game. They try to get their stuff. They're trying to find their stuff early. And you saw a lot of, if you're a Mets fan, you saw a lot of Jacob DeGrom. DeGrom would kind of have a bit of a spotty game. He would have a game or so when you have a bit of a spotty first inning because he's trying to find his stuff and find his groove. So you have to get to him early. And if you don't get these guys early in the first inning or second inning, they're going to get into a groove. They're going to find their stuff, and they're going to end up with like 10 to 12 strikeouts in 6 or 7 or so innings. For the Mets, they had their opportunity with Zach Wheeler. And again, this has been a thing for the Mets where, they don't take advantage of opportunities early in games, whether it's the first inning or the second inning or the third inning. They don't take advantage early in games, scoring runs. And once again, this happened in Philadelphia on Friday against Zach Wheeler. They had the bases loaded. You had one out. You had a chance to get some runs on the board. and at least maybe get a run or two in there and try to get a couple of runs in, get in there early, get an early lead, get a little bit started. You know, yeah. But Jeff McNeil, bases loaded, one out with an opportunity to score runs early and get on top of Zach Wheeler early. He grounds to a double play, and I think from then on out, you were like, that might be the best chance the Mets get all day against Zach Wheeler, and essentially it did. Now the advantage that the Mets had because of that first inning, Zach Wheeler only went 5 innings. He didn't go 6 or 7 or even 8. He only went 5. Still struck out 8 guys, but in the next 4 innings, from the second to the fifth, he got into a groove. And that first inning ended up being the one time they really had a chance to get on Zach Wheeler and to get an early lead and to get some momentum going early against him. But but 2-0 Phillies. The Phillies had an early 2-0 lead. Taijuan Walker comes into the game, the former Met, and they get back-to-back home runs. So this is again Pete Alonso hits a home run 2-1. McNeil hits another home run 2-2. Solo home runs with a theme for the Mets in this series. We'll get to the next game. There are a lot solo home runs with the theme of this series for the Mets. But but you know, they tie the game, and this is where the Mets really had to take advantage because the Phillies bullpen is a struggle for them. They've struggled out of the bullpen this year. Their starting pitching's been overall pretty good, but their bullpen has struggled. So you got Wheeler out of the game. You got Wheeler out of the game. You just tied the game at 2. Here's your chance, but they take Taijuan Walker out, and the Mets get shut out on offense the rest of the way. They don't score again, and they don't take advantage of it. So it's 2-2 then, going into the bottom of the 7th. And a span of 2 innings, this game becomes 2-2 to 10-2 Phillies. How that happens, I have no idea. How a game where it's 2-2 in the bottom of the 7th turns into a 10-2 rout, I have no idea. But again, that just goes to show how things are going for the Mets right now, where a game that was tight all of a sudden becomes a blowout. If we recap the bottom of the 7th inning in that inning for the Philadelphia Phillies, Reed Garrett started off the inning for the Mets after Jose Butto took over for Tidwell. Butto did pretty good overall. But they started off with Reed Garrett in the bottom of the 7th. Let's recap it here. Reed Garrett comes in and gives up a double to Brandon Marsh. Trey Turner then doubles Martian. 3-2 Phillies. Kyle Schwarber walks. Alec Bohm drives in an RBI single, 4-2. Justin Garza then comes in for Reed Garrett. He then gives up an RBI single to Nick Castellanos. It's 5-2. He finally gets an out with Max Kepler, but then he walks JT Realmuto. Bryce Harper then doubles. Bryson Stott doubles. It's 8-2 Phillies. We go to the bottom of the 8th. Mets don't score on the top of the 8th. We go to the bottom of the 8th. And Nick Castellanos hits a 2-run homer. And it's 10-2. Just the game. Once again, the Mets had another game where in this stretch, where it took 1 inning to completely get it away from them. It happened in Tampa Bay against the Rays on Friday, where they were up 5-1, and the Rays had a big inning and scored 6 runs and ended up winning the game 7-5. Now again, the Mets offense was 2 for 16 runs scoring position, but even still, that's another inning. They happened against Atlanta, where they were up 4-1, and they blew that, and the Braves tied it, and it happens here again. 2-2 tie, 7th inning, you're in it, and your pitching just folds. I don't know what else to say. Folds, gets hit up, whatever you want to say. Doesn't get an out. How else you want to describe it? I don't know. But they just, they didn't get an out. They struggled. And they struggle on offense. Again, like I said, they get to the Phillies bullpen. They don't score. 2 runs, that's it. Shut out the rest of the way after the Phillies took out Taijuan Walker. Garrett and Garza struggle. And it's a 10-2 Phillies blowout. A 2-2 tie. A close game for 6 innings turns into a 10-2 Philadelphia Phillies blowout. It just goes to show these are the kind of things that have just happened with this team right now. We then get to Saturday, and the Mets finally snap their 7-game losing streak. The Mets finally get off the schneid, and they finally get a win with the help of 7 solo, again, here's the theme, solo home runs. Juan Soto was the star of this game. Griffin Canning was okay in this game. I wouldn't say this was the Canning we've seen early, but this certainly wasn't the Canning we've seen of late. He was okay, gave him 5 innings. Couldn't get out of the sixth. I don't think he recorded out in the sixth, gave him a base hit, and then Carlos Mendoza took him out. So not the greatest outing for Griffin Canning. Maybe not the outing you go, okay, yeah, this is the one that we saw before, but certainly better than his three of the last four starts. So a decent outing for him. But the story of this game was the offense. 11 runs, 7 solo homers, two by Juan Soto. It was highlighted by back to back to back in the third inning with Lindor, who got off the schneid. He was over for his last 20 before then. Home runs, left center field. Nimmo golfed his second home run. Nimmo hit a home run earlier in the game in the first inning. He golfs his second one, and then Soto hits his first of what would be two. And they go back to back to back. Nimmo hits 2 home runs. Soto hits an absolute bomb that I think went 470 whatever feet to the second deck in right field of Citizens Bank Park. Uh, this was Soto's. To go to Soto for a second. Well, we'll talk about, but again, the other 7 home runs, Lindor, Nimmo, Soto. The other two were by Jared Young, continues to get playing time. And we'll get to him in a second. Francisco Alvarez. We'll talk about him after we talk about Sunday's game. But Francisco Alvarez's home run will end up being the home run that we see Alvarez for at least a while. So we'll talk more about Alvarez in a second. But Jared Young, but 7 solo homers, I believe, set a team record. 7 solo home runs in the game. They win 11-4. Feel good. Nice game for the Mets to just feel good, get a win. Their offense has a big day. Their offense has one of their biggest days of the entire season. To get back to Juan Soto, to get back to Juan Soto, he's been very good this month. Juan Soto has been, there is no denying, Juan Soto has been very good this month. But I think Saturday was the game that was his big breakout game. And I think that was the game where that's why you got him. I don't think he's had some good games for the Mets. Like I said, this month he's been really good. But Saturday was the kind of game where you go, yeah, this is why we paid him. This is why the Mets paid him a lot of money. 2 home runs. I'm not saying he's going to hit 2 home runs every day, of course, but 2 home runs, 4 hits, 4 RBIs, and he put the team on his back. They're in the middle of a 7-game losing streak. They needed a win, and their big superstar outfielder, who they paid a lot of money to and a lot of years to, put the team on his back and said, "Hey guys, I'm going to get you a win," and he did that. He did that. And I think that's a big credit to him. And it shows you how good he is. And the Mets needed it. He came through. The hope was, of course, because this was just one game, that they would continue into the next day. They needed to continue this into the next day. That didn't happen. So Saturday was nice, but Sunday, back to the losing and back to what it's been for the last week or so. David Pearson pitched on Sunday. The offense, again, pretty much shut out the whole way. The only run of the game was a Francisco Lindor home run. Another solo homer. Another solo homer. Again, this was the theme of the entire series. David Pearson came into the game. Excuse me. Actually, no. Again, let me go back. Top of the first inning. Again, Mets had an opportunity to score runs early. Had an opportunity to get runs on the board against Jesus Luzardo and get some runs in early. Try to get back. Try to get on the board early. Get some momentum, etc. They had Lindor on second base with 1 out, and Juan Soto flew out. Kind of got jammed a bit. If he doesn't, maybe that might be a double or even a 2-run homer. They kind of got jammed a bit on the inside of the bat. And then Pete Alonso, on a 3-1 count, took 2 straight strikes. The 3-1 pitch was maybe a little questionable, but I did think it was a bit of a strike. He took 2 straight pitches, 3-1, 3-1, strike 2, 3-1, strike 3. Strike 3-2 was clearly strike 3. And yeah, right off the bat, you're 0 for 2 runs scoring position. Again, the timely hitting, situational hitting, not getting on the board early when you have an opportunity, not getting on the board when you have an opportunity. And that is something the Mets offense needs to get better at. They got to get better at it. When you get an opportunity early in games, especially against good teams, especially against division rivals, in the first second, especially on the road, you've got to do it. You've got to take advantage of that. And this team struggles to take advantage of that, to get on the board early. They have struggled to do that at this point of the season. They really struggled during this road trip and really struggled against the Braves and the Phillies by doing that. David Pearson has to pitch. He looked good for 3 innings, and then the fourth inning happened, and he got hit up. Schwarber stepped up and launched an absolute bomb over center field. I thought it was gonna go over the grass, but in center field, the big bush patch in center field that Citizens Bank Park has, but it just still hit it. He smokes a solo home run, and then Alec Bohm, and then Nick Castellanos hit a double. Realmuto walked. Adam Kemp drove in. Castellanos, and then Edmundo Sosa hit a rocket home run to right center field, made it 5-0 right off the bat, and that was it for David Pearson. I thought David Pearson could have gone another inning, but that was it for Peterson. He was done. 4 innings. Peterson, after having two overall incredibly good outings, he's been Mr. Consistent for the Mets in the rotation all year long. Him and Kodai Senga. Peterson went 4 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. His ERA now goes up to 2.98. So, yeah, this is definitely the worst outing for Peterson. And probably all year long to this point, but certainly, again, didn't start out that way. First 3 innings, he looked good, he looked sharp, but the Phillies offense is really good. And again, they took 2 out of 3 from the Mets without Bryce Harper. They had Bryce Harper in Citi Field last time they met, where the Mets swept them, and they don't have Bryce Harper this time around. They took 2 out of 3. So hey, that's baseball. But yeah, so it's 5-0 right off the bat in the fifth inning or in the fourth inning, and it's like, well, again, you're watching this team, how they're playing right now. You go, here we go again. You go, here we go again. You're down 5-0 early, release in the fourth inning. It's like, here we go again. And you just don't have any confidence right now with this offense that they're going to get back into this game. You don't have much confidence in this offense right now. I think that's such a big problem. That's such a big problem compared to last year. I will compare last year. Last year, when they were down in games, I think you had confidence that their offense could come back and mount a comeback because they just had good chemistry. They had a good role with their offense and knew what they knew their roles. They passed the baton over. They were very good at coming back in games. I don't think you get that. I don't think we've gotten that so far with this team, and that includes even before this current 8 out of 9 that they're streak that they're on. That includes before when the Mets have been down in games. Sometimes you do get the feeling of I don't know if this offense can come back from this. Can come back. They're down 5-0. You're like, especially now, it's like, well, okay, that's probably game here. They end up losing the game 7-1. I think Tyler Zuber came into the game, and they recently signed him. They recently called him up. Zuber, actually, actually, that's a note. Actually, here's a note to go from this game. Daniel Nunez, he was recalled from the minor leagues. They called him back up. He's a guy they need to succeed. He's a guy they need to pitch well. They really need Nunez to be that guy that he was last year before his injury. He came up earlier this year, didn't look good, was walking a lot of guys, didn't throw strikes. But he came back last night in the bottom of the sixth, got a 1-2-3 inning. So actually, no, excuse me, not a 1-2-3 inning. He gave up a double to Sosa, but still got out of it, scoreless inning. So okay, you just hope that things will be better for Nunez this time around, because boy, they need him. Boy, they need Daniel Nunez in the middle of that bullpen. They really do. They really need somebody to step up in the middle of that bullpen. They really do. They really, really do. So hopefully Nunez could be that guy that he was last year, because they really need it. So that's a quick note we need to make about this game. Lindor hit the only home run. 7-1 Phillies win, and the Mets lose 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. Again, it's and I posted this on Twitter, I think after the Braves series, but I kind of followed up on it last night. I said that after the Braves series, I said this current stretch that they're on is the biggest test for Carlos Mendoza in his managerial career at this point. Because, and I know some might argue, well, wait a minute, he was 11 games under 500. We talked about last year, we talk about last year's 11 games under 500. But I think this is different because last year they weren't expected to do much. I think you had to be the biggest optimist Met fan last year to look at that team at the beginning of the season and go, yeah, they're a playoff team. And that's what I saw from some people, not a lot, but some people that go, oh, this team can. Again, this is before everything. This is before Grimace. This is this is before everything. Spring training, opening days on the horizon. You know, there were some people that said, oh yeah, they can win 80 something games. I got a better vibe from this team last year. I'm getting a better vibe from them. Breath of fresh air. No Scherzer, no Verlander, no Buck Showalter, no whatever. And I was like, I don't know. But I think myself and a lot of others saw that team last year at the beginning and go, they might lose a lot of games. And for the first 2 months, yeah, that's what it looked like. They were 11 games under 500. So it didn't surprise me. And I don't think it surprised a lot of other people for that they were 11 games under 500 last year. So point is, Mendoza did not come into a season last year with high expectations. It wasn't a surprise that the Mets were 11 games under 500 with a rookie manager, 2 months into the season. So I don't think it was, again, not taking it away from Mendoza. All credit to him. He deserves a lot of credit and a lot of praise for him taking a team that was 11 games under 500 to the NL all the way to the NLCS and them having the best record in baseball from June onwards to the NLCS. He deserves all the credit in the world for that. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I think this is a bit different. Now, I think this is the true test for him to see how good of a manager he really is. Let's see how good he really is. Let's see if he is the guy because, this was a team now compared to last year. This is a team now with championship aspirations. This is a team now with championship goals and championship aspirations. And, you know, this is now his first true stretch where you're playing bad baseball with a championship caliber or at least championship expectation team. Things were cruising. Things were going so well for 2.5 months, kind of the opposite of last year, where things weren't going so well for 2 months or so. And then they got hot, but now things are going so well and cruising for 2.5 months, but now they've hit a bump. Now they've hit a bump in the road. So now it's up to Mendoza to take it and roll with it and take it and get back on track and make sure this doesn't spiral and make sure that the season doesn't go out of control here with a team with expectations compared to the team he had last year with no expectations. Now he's got expectations. Now it's time to find out truly how good of a manager Carlos Mendoza really is. And look, this is what I also point out on Twitter last night after the game. The Mets have now gotten blown out in 6 of the last 8 games. Like they've lost 8 of the last 9, but in 6 of them, they've not been close. They've at least been games where they were close, but ended up being blowouts. You know, like I said, for example, Friday's game, that was 2-2 for the majority of the game. It was close game for the majority of the game, but then it turned to a blowout in the last 2 innings, 10-2. 6 of these games now, the two against the Rays, Saturday and Sunday, the last 2 against Atlanta, and then Friday and yesterday against Philly. 6 of the last 8 have been blowouts, non-competitive. And that's not just players. That's not just the injuries. Injuries happen. Look at the Los Angeles Dodgers. They have injuries all over their starting rotation, and they're doing just fine. They're doing just fine. Injuries happen. Injuries are going to happen in sports, especially in the middle of a 162-game baseball season. It's not just the players. It's the players. Don't get me wrong, it is the players. It's the players. But it also falls on coaching. When your team is getting blown out like that, and during the stretch, 6 times out of the last 8 games, yeah, that's on coaching. That's on Carlos Mendoza. That's on Jeremy Hefner. That's on Barnes. That's on Chavez. That's on coaching as well. Coaching doesn't get off. Coaching doesn't get a pass. I know it's baseball. I know we don't like to blame coaches and managers anymore in baseball, but that does fall on the coaches. That does fall on the manager. So to me, this is Mendoza's biggest test. Not last year. Last year was a big test, and he passed. Last year was a test for him, and he did well. Last year was a test for Carlos Mendoza, and he did well. Took the team from 11 games under 500 to the best record in baseball from all that point to the NLCS. He did a very good job. Again, All credit to him on that, but this is different now because this is a team with expectations. Last year they didn't have expectations. Now they do. And you signed up for that expectation the minute you put pen to paper on a man named Juan Soto. So now's the real test for Carlos Mendoza. Now is the real test to see how good of a manager he really is. Time to find out. Let's see if he's the guy. Let's see if he's the guy for the job. Let's see if he's the guy that's going to be the manager for the next 7 or so years because the Mets haven't had that guy since Terry Collins. Showalter, 2 years. Luis Rojas, 2 years. Mickey Callaway, 2 years. If you want to count Carlos Beltran, a few months. But they haven't had a guy go longer than 5 years since Terry Collins. You know, it's time to find out how good of a manager Mendoza is. I think this is the stretch. This is the time, and this is the stretch with the 8 out of 9, losing 8 out of 9 games, getting blasted by the Braves, getting blasted by the Phillies, um, getting blasted by the Rays. Three good teams, especially two in your division. You now face the Braves again this week. Um, uh, uh, Injuries. Senga's hurt again. Montez and Manaea coming back, and Montez, you don't know what you're going to get out of him because he struggled a lot in AAA. The Yentos is hurt. Beatty's struggling. Acuna struggling. We'll get to Acuna in a second. Acuna struggling. Alvarez struggling. Um, you know, we'll see. Let's see how good he is. It's time. It's here we go. Here we go. We're gonna find out, I think, how good of Carlos Mendoza, well, how good of a manager Carlos Mendoza really is. This is his biggest test to me. Not last year. It's now here. It wasn't last year. This is now his biggest test. So let's see how he does. Let's see how good he really is, I think. Because if this team goes from 21 games over 500 and then misses the playoffs and this losing streak, this losing skid that they're on does result in the season going to missing the playoffs, don't think Steve Cohen and David Stearns are going to take it lightly and look at Mendoza and go, how the heck did this happen? We were a team supposed to win a championship. We signed Juan Soto for you. You weren't supposed to miss the playoffs. We weren't supposed to take a step back this year. How do you go from 21 games over after 2.5 months to missing the playoffs? I think if Carlos Mendoza, if this goes to them missing the playoffs, I wouldn't. I think I think Carlos Mendoza then seat will get a little bit warm. So this is his test. This is the test now for Mendoza. So we'll see it. Let's see how he does. I like Mendoza. I do. I like him a lot. I like that he trusts his players. I like that he has faith in his players. I think he's a good locker room guy, good clubhouse guy. I do think he is a good manager. His decision making has not been good over the last 2 weeks, but that's that's a lot of managers in baseball. They're going to have these stretches, and they're like the players. They're going to have stretches where their decisions isn't good, and players are going to have stretches where they're struggling at the plate or struggling on the mound. It's going to just baseball, but or sports in general. But I think Mendoza is a good manager. I do like him, but I think now we're going to find out how good he really is. Is he good enough to help lead this team to a championship? Let's see if he can get them out of it. So anyway, that's the recap of the series against the Phillies, and overall, again, out hit, out pitched, out coached, out defense, out everything. Aside from Saturday, that's how it was. And I think again, it was a little, you would have liked to have seen something a little bit better. You know, yeah, you would have liked to see something a little bit better. Uh, after that Saturday win. You know, you know. So you would like to see a little bit better after that Saturday win. You would like to see him continue that momentum into Sunday, but that didn't happen, and they lost 2 out of 3. But that's the series in Philadelphia, and the Mets, after they won on Saturday, sent down Francisco Alvarez to AAA. This was a move that wasn't, obviously you were a bit curious and go, wait a minute, didn't he hit a home run? Didn't he hit a home run? Like, why would you send him down? But obviously you have to look at the full picture, full body of work. His defense hasn't been good, in terms of pass balls and wild pitches. His offense, of course, his bat has really taken a step back, has really regressed over these, not just this year, but last year as well. So again, we brought up in the show last time, This was not. I don't think this comes as a big of a surprise. They sent him down, brought up Hayden Senger. Hayden Senger will now be the backup catcher to Luis Torrens, who will now start for the time being. But it is disappointing. It is a bit of a bummer. I don't know if I would have made the move myself, but I'm not surprised they did it. He needs reps, obviously, in AAA. I think he needs to go down there, work on his craft, get back going, get to hitting again, get comfortable at the plate again. I think that's the big thing with Alvarez. To me, it's not his defense, it's his bat. The real value in Francisco Alvarez is his offense and his bat. When his bat's good, he's a wonderful slugger to watch. I think he needs to go back down to AAA, work on his swing, work on his power, hold the ball a bit more to left center field. Don't worry about hitting it to the opposite field. I know Eric Chavez was teaching him to hit the ball the other way, but it was clearly not working. He needs to go back and do what he does best, hold the ball to left center field and hit for power. That's what he has to go back to doing. That's what succeeded 2 years ago. Why the Mets stopped him from doing that? Why Eric Chavez told him that he wasn't good in his rookie year, and I don't understand. But you know, don't worry about hitting the ball the opposite way. Hit the ball to left center field. I want to see him do that in AAA. Hopefully, when he's there for a couple of weeks or however long, probably a couple of weeks, I would assume, he gets his swing back, gets his confidence back. He comes back and he starts and beats the catcher that we know. He's still only 23. I'm not saying the Mets should go out and immediately get a catcher, although maybe it might be maybe they should, but I don't know who's out there. Don't say Hunter Goodman of the Rockies because I don't think the Rockies are going to trade him. But who's out there? But I think Alvarez is still the best, most talented catcher they have on this roster. So he needs to go down to AAA, work on his swing, work on his power, obviously get the defense better, but work on his swing, work on his power, and then in a few weeks come back and be the guy we know you can be. Be the guy that this team and this franchise and this fan base know you can be. That's all. I was a little bit surprised that they sent him down, but but still I wasn't that surprised. There was more roster moves made today. More roster moves made today. More guys being sent down. Mentioned Luisangel Acuna. Luisangel Acuna was optioned to AAA along with Tyler Zuber. This was, to me, I would not have done. I would not have sent Acuna down. I would have played him. I love his speed. His defense is good. I know his bat hasn't been great since he won Rookie of the Month in April. I understand that. But to me, I would not have been giving him. I didn't understand giving Mauricio at bats over Acuna. Ronnie Mauricio looks awful at the plate right now. He looks atrocious at the plate. Ronnie Mauricio, his swings are lazy. His approach is just not very good. I would take Acuna right now. I know Acuna has been pretty at all as of late, but I would take Acuna right now over Mauricio. I would not, but Mauricio is probably going to get set down anyway once Vientos is back. We'll talk about Vientos in a second, but I don't know if I would have sent Acuna down. I would have kept him up. I love his speed. I think he does give you good defense. We'll get the bat going. I think his bat is still there. I would have given him a lot more playing time to Mauricio. This move I didn't understand. At least I kind of understood sending him down. Excuse me. At least I kind of understood sending Alvarez down. At least I kind of understood that. But I don't know. For this one with Acuna, I don't know. I would not have done this. I would not have done this at all. But Acuna is now being sent down. Hopefully he can get things going again. Hopefully we'll see him down the line because I'm still a pretty big fan of Luisangel Acuna. Travis Jankowski, the former Met is now back. They signed him a few days ago. He's now back on the active roster. He'll more than likely take Acuna's spot in terms of the speed guy. So Mark Vientos. They also signed Richard Lovelady to a 1-year contract. He's now active. He'll be in the bullpen. That was as many arms as they could get in that bullpen. Tyler Zuber also got sent down to the minor leagues as well. Jose Siri was transferred to the 60-day injured list. Mark Vientos was supposed to be called up today. That was the expected expectation. He was going to be brought back and activated today off the IL. But the Mets feel, according to Andy Martino, the Mets feel he needs just a little bit more time. That he needs a few more games in the minor leagues. So the Mets will at least have to go a couple more games at least without their slugger. Andy Martino reports. Asked him why is Andy Martino reports. For the Mets, Mark Vientos is not activated today because he needs a few more rehab games. So infield in the roster, leaving Ryan Mauricio as another young infielder on the roster who desperately needs development. It would make sense to option when Vientos is ready. Yeah, you would have liked to see Vientos up by now, especially. But if he needs more rehab games, okay, just give him a couple more, and hopefully he's back by a couple days from now. Maybe he's back by the weekend or Thursday or so, or Wednesday or Thursday or so, or at least by the weekend against the Milwaukee Brewers. But they need Vientos back. They really do. They need his bat back, and I mean his bat. His bat. He needs to come back and needs to hit. He wasn't hitting much before his injury. They need him to hit. They need him to be the guy that he was last year. They really do. They could really use his bat. And regardless of his defense has taken a hit this year. Regardless of his defense, you know, regardless of his defense, they need his bat. So they need him to come up, come back, and hit home runs again because they need that bad. But that's the update of Mark Vientos. Needs a few more games with the minor leagues. Kodai Senga, he spoke to the media today, and this was pretty key. Kodai Senga spoke to the media today, gave him a quick update on what's going on, his rehab and everything. He said, actually, Kodai Senga was throwing at Citi Field today. Jesse Winker is also working on Citi Field today, taking batting practice as the Mets work to get him back. They really need him back. Jesse Winker, I don't know how much, I don't know how much the Mets can continue to throw Jared Young out there DH. We'll get to the Mets lineup in a second, but for tonight in a second. But I don't know how much longer the Mets can continue to throw in Jared Young, you know, as their lefty DH. I would DH Starling Marte every day. I know they don't want to because matchups lefty, righty, lefty. I know, but Starling Marte's still got a good bat. Just DH him every day. Just DH him every day. I don't think you need Jared Young out there right now. Just DH Starling Marte every day. Please, just DH Starling Marte every day. There's no need. There's no need to DH Jared Young. Have him come off the bench in the ninth inning or something like that, or seventh or whatever. If you want him to come off as the bench of a pinch hitter, fine. Don't start Starling Marte DH every day. Your lineup card should be DH Starling Marte every single day. Every single day until Jesse Winker's ready to come back, and then you can go back to your platooning stuff. But until Winker's ready, DH Starling Marte every DH Starling Marte every single day. Okay, DH Marte. Okay, DH Marte every single day. Okay, that's that. All right, and that's that. But Kodai Senga talked to the media today. Says he's doing great. Uh, says he's feeling great. Rehab assignment could be on the horizon. And hey, the sooner they get Senga back, the sooner they get Senga back, the better. The sooner they get Kodai Senga back, the sooner they get their ace back, the better. Because they need, yes, and yes, I said ace. He's the ace of the staff. I'm sorry. He is the ace. I know some might say Sean Manaea, but to me, it's still Kodai Senga. It's unfortunate that Senga got hurt. Like I said, the first baseman can throw the ball to the pitcher, but it happened. But he's poorly, says he's feeling great. He spoke to the media, says he's feeling great. So the rehab assignment is coming soon. So quicker they get to the rehab assignment, the better. Hopefully he's back by, ESPN broadcast said August. I think the ESPN broadcast said August, but but I think he can come back by mid to late July, or at least sometime sometime after the All-Star break. I don't think he'll be. I don't know if he'll be out. I guess we'll see. We'll find out. I guess how his rehab assignment is going, but I'd be a bit surprised if he's not back before the start of August. But we'll see. Anyway, on to tonight's game and to this 4-game series with the Atlanta Braves as the Mets come off losing 2 out of 3 to the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Atlanta Braves, they followed up the sweep of the New York Mets by losing 2 out of 3 to the Miami Marlins. The lineup today for the New York Mets as they hit the field to take on the Atlanta Braves once again. Actually, we'll do a quick more update on Mark Vientos. Carlos Mendoza spoke to the media. He said Mark Vientos will play 9 innings tomorrow at third base. So that's pretty key. He will play 9 innings at third base at Syracuse tomorrow, and obviously that's key because you'd like to see Mark Vientos do a little bit good on defense. So he'll play 9 innings on defense tomorrow, and DH, and he will DH all game on Wednesday. So that's actually more on the update on Mark Vientos. But the lineup today for the New York Mets, leading off at shortstop, Francisco Lindor, batting second, playing left field, Brandon Nimmo, batting third, playing right field, Juan Soto, playing first base, batting fourth, Pete Alonso, batting fifth, playing second base, Jeff McNeil, sixth, center field, Tyrone Taylor, batting seventh, DH, Jared Young, doing the catching, Luis Torrens, and at third base, batting ninth is Brett Beatty, with Paul Blackburn back out there doing the pitching for the Mets as the Mets continue to try to weather the storm with their starting pitching staff. They will face Spencer Schwellenbach for the Atlanta Braves. So again, that is tonight's game. That is tonight's game at 7 o'clock. It's hot. It's hot here in New York. There's a heat wave around here in New York. So everybody around the area, stay cool. Especially if you're going to the game at Citi Field this week. I'm going to the game on Wednesday night. I think that's the game where Clay Holmes is pitching. So we'll see Clay Holmes on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. But I'm going to the game on Wednesday night. So gotta stay cool because it's hot. It is hot here in New York. But that's tonight's game. Tomorrow's game, Frankie Montas makes his Mets debut, 7 o'clock against Spencer Strider. Montas, we'll see what he can do. We're winging it. We are winging it with Frankie Montas because, boy, they need him right now to pitch a little bit well. 13 or so ERA in AAA in his rehab starts. We're winging it. I said before, just get his hands on Jeremy Hefner and let's see what happens. So Jeremy Hefner has now got his hands on Frankie Montas. Let's see how he does. Wednesday night, like I said, Clay Holmes starting for the Mets. He looks to bounce back from the starting against Atlanta before. He will face Didier Fuentes. Obviously, the Atlanta Braves have Chris Sale went on the IL. He fractured his rib cage against in the ninth inning against the Mets on the dive to Juan Soto. So Chris Sale is now on the injured list. And then Griffin Canning on Thursday to wrap up the series Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Griffin Canning will go on the mound against the Atlanta Braves. Holmes against the Atlanta Braves. Holmes. That would be Grant Holmes. So Grant Holmes against Griffin Canning on Thursday night, and Clay Holmes against Didi Fuentes on Wednesday night, and tomorrow night Frankie Montas against Spencer Strider. Tonight, Paul Blackburn against Spencer Schwellenbach. Look, the bottom line for the Mets is this heading to the series. You got to snap out of it. You've got to step out. And look, I know this Braves team has had your number. Game 161 last year aside. I know this Atlanta Braves team over the past couple of years has had your number. But you got to beat these guys. If there's any time if there's any time to beat the Atlanta Braves, it's now. You got to do it. You got to beat these guys. You can't let them spank you again. You can't let them slap you around and spank you again. You can't constantly let them spank you again. They spanked you again, Atlanta. They spanked you again. 2 games where they blew you out. And the other first game, you blew that one and after being up 4-1 the 8th inning. You can't let them spank you anymore. You've got to beat these guys, especially now with the Braves not having the season we all expect them to have. You got to beat these guys. You got to find a way to beat these guys. And with the Mets playing the way they're playing right now, losing 8 of 9, you're coming back home, you're reeling, you really need to get back up and play. You really need to get back up and start winning some of these games because it ain't getting any easier. You got after this, you got Milwaukee. You got Milwaukee this weekend. You go on the road to face the Pirates, and they'll probably throw Paul Skeens at you. And then you face the Yankees again, on July 4th weekend. So it's time to step out of it. It's time to get back. It's time to get back into the thick of things here. It's time to get back to winning baseball games. You can't let this strike continue. You have to get back into the thick of things. You have to. I know this team has holes right now. I know they have injuries. I know their pitching isn't doing well. I know their hitting isn't good, but that's on everybody to get going again. You've lost 8 of 9. You're coming back home. The fans are not happy. Look, the fans and I, Met fans. We know Met fans. Even with a team that's 14 or so games over 500, and has they ain't happy right now. They ain't happy. This team has lost 8 of 9, and they've been non-competitive. And they've been non-competitive. In 6 of the last, and six of those games. It's time to get back It's time to get back on track. It's time to get back on track if you're the Mets. It's time to get back. You're back home. Fans are restless. Fans want to see you win. And I'm sure you and the Mets want to win. Mets want to get back to winning. It's time for them to get back to winning. It's time, and you're facing a Braves team that you can beat. You just got to do it. This is the time to get to the Braves and beat them. I know they own you. I know they've spanked you for the last couple of years, game 161 aside, last year aside. I know they've spanked you the last couple of years. I know they beat you up last week. But guess what? New series, you're back home. It's time to get back. It's time to get back into the thick of things. You're frustrated. Everyone's frustrated. The fans are frustrated. You're frustrated. The manager's frustrated. Clearly, Carlos Mendoza's frustrated. You can tell. The coaches are frustrated. The players are frustrated. Everyone's frustrated. Everyone's frustrated. So how do you stop that? Well, you win. How do you stop that? You win. Simple as that. You win. You win. That's how you stop it. You win some games. You win some baseball games. Get back on track. Get back on the road. Get back on the track and win some games. And it starts tonight. It won't be easy because Paul Blackburn's starting. But find a way. Find a way, find a way, find a way, find a way. Got to find a way to win some games. I think in this series, the Mets have to at least take 3 out of 4. I think a split doesn't work for me. I mean, I guess some would take a split, but I don't think a split works for the Mets. I think you have to take 3 out of 4. You have to take 3. I know it's tough against a division rival. I know it's tough against the Braves, but you've got to find a way to get at least 3. You got to find a way to get at least 3. You got to. You got to. Get some momentum. I don't think a split gets you any momentum. Obviously, of course, losing the series gets you no momentum, but I don't even think a split gets you momentum. I don't even think a split gets you momentum. But you've got to get at least 3 in here. You've got to get at least 3 before you face Milwaukee this weekend. They're good. So, if you lose the series, though, 3 out of 4, get swept. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Then we're going to really start talking. Then we're really going to have a bit of a conversation about this Mets team. They lose this series or even get swept. Boy, we're really going to have to start talking about them. We're really going to have to start a dialogue. We're really going to have to start a dialogue with this team. This is a must-win series for the Mets. I know it's only June. And there's plenty of season left. But this team has lost 8 out of 9. They've been non-competitive in 6 out of them. They've been non-competitive in 6 out of them. But it's time for them to get back on track, get going again. They need to get back to playing their brand of baseball. And that is good pitching. I know it's not easy right now with the way the pitching is, but they need to get good pitching. And this offense has got to start carrying the load. This offense has got to start taking them and saying, put us on your back. We will put you on our backs. And that starts with scoring the runs, scoring position. And this bullpen has got to get back on track. You can't see Reed Garrett walking guys anymore. Ryan Stanek has got to get more consistent. Jose Budo's got to get more consistent. And this bullpen and this team get the ball to Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning. Because that guy hasn't got many opportunities as of late. That guy is not, and you've had a couple of opportunities. You've had a couple of games during the stretch where you could have gotten the ball to him. Tampa Bay, Atlanta. All you had to do was get that, even Philadelphia on Friday, even in a tie game, get that ball in his hands in the 9th inning. That's what you got. That is one of the biggest goals with the Mets when they play a baseball game. Get to the 9th inning with a lead. I know Diaz can be a bit wild. I understand that. And when he's not good, boy, he ain't good. But when he's good, ooh, he's really good. The man hasn't had many opportunities lately. One of the best closers in all of baseball hasn't had many opportunities as of late. And that is not ideal. That is not ideal. Edwin Diaz, you need to get that. You need to get to the 9th inning with a lead and get the ball to Diaz. So that should be the goal every single game for this team. So, but that's the keys. The keys, I think, for the Mets in this series is easy. It's simple. It's very simple. Get back to playing your brand of baseball. Stop trying to do too much. It seems like this team is trying to do too much. They're overthinking. You're thinking way too much. Just play your brand of baseball. That's it. So we'll see how they do in this series. We'll be back on Thursday, or excuse me, Friday. We'll do Friday afternoon because Thursday night's a night game. Uh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we'll be back on Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday afternoon. We'll be back Friday afternoon for another episode of MazzaOnMets. We will recap this series of the Braves, and of course, any other things that pop up, any of the news that pops up around the Mets as they would prepare for a weekend series with the Milwaukee Brewers. Um, but yeah, we'll see. This is a big series for the Mets. They've got to find a way to win this series. You can't lose three straight division series. You got swept by Atlanta, lost 2 out of 3 to Philly on the road, all on the road. You know, you've got to find a way to win this series. You can't lose three straight division series. You can't. It is not ideal if you want to win this division, especially this tough division. You can't lose three straight division series. You can't. I know this team is not at full strength right now, but that doesn't matter. The Phillies just beat you 2 out of 3 without Bryce Harper, so they ain't at full strength either. So they got to find a way to get back on track, and it starts tonight. We'll see what they get at Paul Blackburn, and let's see if this offense will do anything against Schwellenbach. It starts, but it has to start tonight. Has to start tonight. You've got to get back on track. So we'll see how they do tonight. We'll see how they do for the rest of the series. We will be back on Friday for another episode of MazzaOnMets, recapping the series of the Braves and previewing their upcoming weekend series of the Milwaukee Brewers and everything that's going on with the Mets. Yeah, I have been your host, Evan Mazza. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for listening to my bit of a rant. Obviously, it's obviously this team is struggling right now. So yeah, you know, so yeah, it stinks to speak. It stinks, but you got to speak in this matter about this team because it's how they're going by. So, like I said, that will wrap it up for today. Again, like I said, that's it for MazzaOnMets for today. We'll be back on Friday. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Evan Mazza. Give this video a like, share, and subscribe. I would appreciate that very much. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you all for listening. I will see you all on Friday, and let's go Mets.